Okay. All right, here we go. First off, to be able to do these triangles today, again, it all comes down to this. Make sure I'll always kind of write it down. But you're going to solve your triangles by SOHCAHTOA. Okay, you're going to set up a ratio and you're going to solve it. Okay. Again, make sure that your calculators are in degrees. If you go home, and I know a lot of you downloaded the app on your phone, just make sure you're in degrees. Okay, make sure you're in degrees if you're going to do that. And again, set calculators to 1 decimal. Okay.
That's just the float thing, right?
Yeah, you go to float, go to 1. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about this first. If you can solve this equation, then you can solve a trig equation. How would you solve this equation? What would be probably the easiest way to solve that? You would cross multiply. This is a proportion, right? You have x over 2 equals 1 over 3. You have a fraction equal to a fraction. You would just cross multiply here. You'd say x times 3 equals 1 times 2, and then you would divide by 3. We solve trig equations the exact same way. They look exactly like that. Okay, it'll just have a sign in it, or it'll have a cosine, or whatever it is. But all we do is we treat it as a proportion, and we solve it. Okay? All right, so draw me a right triangle. We'll call this ABC. So for the first couple problems, or the majority of your problems today, I just want you to solve one unknown. I don't want you to solve the triangle, I just want you to find the one answer. So maybe this is 24 degrees, maybe this is x, and that is 12. Solve for x.
E sine.
Oh, you would
Sine
do,
24 times.
So we're going to do, so what did you said it's going to be? Sine. You know this angle, correct?
Yes.
What side is this to that angle? Opposite. What side is this? And what trig function is opposite in hypotenuse? Sine. So here we go. You just say the sine of 24.
24. Is that a degree or is that a
That's a degree.
I thought that was 240.
Does that look like a 240?
At 0, or that.
That's a degree. So the sine of 24 equals opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. Do you see that I just have a proportion? What number can I put underneath this sign? I can always put a 1 right there. There you go. This problem is identical to this problem. It's a proportion. So all I do is I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to take 12 times the sine of 24 is equal to x. Type that into your calculators and you're done. Okay, now be careful how you enter this. If you go the sine of 24 times 12, your calculator is probably going to take 24 times 12 first and then the sine of that. Always put the number in front of the trig function. And can somebody tell me what we get?
4.9.
4.9. So you're telling me that this side measure is 4.9. You solved, well, you didn't solve the triangle, you found the unknown value. Okay? Now let me ask you this. Would I ever want to do like a cosecant, a secant, or a cotangent? Would I ever want to use an inverse to solve these? I could, but it makes it way more complicated. You'd have to do a lot more keystrokes on your calculator. So when you're solving triangles today, you're just going to use your main 3, sine, cosine, or tangent. Then maybe next week we'll show you how to enter cosecants and that on a calculator. There's no button on your calculator that says cosecant or secant. You have to do them a different way. So let's just worry about the main 3 today. Okay, how about this one? What if I did, I don't know, a triangle like so, call this A, this B, this C, however I want to label it. I put 61 degrees right there. And let's put X here and 4 there. This one kind of messes up people. First off, always figure out what trig function you're going to use. You have to use the angle that I give you, right? 61, we got to use that. What would this side be to 61?
Opposite.
And what would this be?
Hypotenuse.
What trig function is opposite in hypotenuse? So it's going to be sine of 61, but notice how this is set up. It's 4 over x, opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? So again, I'm going to throw a 1 underneath it like that, and I'm going to treat it like a proportion. I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to go x times that equals 4 times 1. Well, what would I have to do here to get x by itself? Divide by the sine of 61. So there you go. This is as hard as it gets right there. It doesn't get any harder than that. You just sometimes have to divide. So on your calculators, take 4 divided by the sine of 61. 4.6? Boop. There you go. This is the only 2 scenarios that can happen. Either x is on bottom or x is on top. That's it. There's no other scenario I could give you. Okay? Well, I got to show you one last one. The last one is the toughest one for people. It's not that it's hard. It's just that, I don't know, maybe it's just different and they're kind of get messed up. What happens if I don't give you an angle measure? So this is our last one. So this is find a missing side, is what we just did here. But now, let me show you how to find an angle measure. When we first started trig, a lot of you thought when I was talking about, when I said like cosecant, secant, you go, oh, that's the -1 button on your calculator. No, it isn't. That -1 button on your calculator, the sine to the -1, cosine to the -1, that's the button you use to find an angle measure. It has nothing to do with cosecant, secant, and cotangent. So what I mean is if I drew a triangle like this, and I told you that this was 24.2 and this is 48.3, what would this angle measure be? Like, notice I don't give you any angles at all. So you have to approach these a little bit differently. First off, we'll just call this angle A. Well, what 2 side measures am I given? What trig function am I going to use? I'm going to use cosine, because isn't this adjacent? And this is hypotenuse, which is cosine. So I'm going to go the cosine of A, because I don't know what it is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So here's how you find an angle measure on your calculator. This is when you have no angles, this is when you type in cosine to the -1. So you're going to press second cosine, and then you just type in 24.2 divided by 48.3. So just go second cosine of 24.2 divided by 48.3. And what do we get? What is it? 59.9. Now, does that kind of make sense? I mean, doesn't that seem like that could be a 59-degree angle? Okay? If you enter this wrong and you get like 0.0062, how can that be an angle measure? That doesn't seem right. You know, when you're doing these problems, a lot of times your answers are going to be 34.6 degrees, 48.3 degrees. You're going to get answers that kind of make sense. Okay? Negative 0.662 does not make sense to be an angle measure. That just means you entered it wrong. Okay? So, whenever you are looking for an angle measure, you're going to press second sine, cosine, or tangent. It just depends what trig function you're using. These are actually easier to solve than these because there's no math involved. You just go second sine, second cosine of that divided by that. Any questions? Okay. This is all we're doing today. We're just going through, finding one value. I did put some problems on there. I'm just going to count them as extra credit. If you would like to do them, and I'll give you pretty good extra credit for them because it takes a little bit of time. And we'll just work on this problem since we already have it started. On Monday, we're going to show you how to solve these things. Yes?
Can you remind me, how do you know if you're doing side or tangent?
Oh, okay, so I'm using this angle measure, right? We didn't know what this was. So I look at the two sides that are in relationship to this angle. Well, this side is your adjacent. This side is your hypotenuse, so I just go to SOHCAHTOA, what trig function has adjacent and hypotenuse? Cosine does. Okay? All right. If you want to do extra credit today, what I'm going to ask you to do is solve the triangle. And when I say solve it, that means I want you to do give me all the answers. Well, I give you 3. What measure does this represent? Little b. Remember, little b is opposite from big B. So this is 24.2. What's this measurement represent? Little c. And what's the other measurement you know?
Big A.
No, that wasn't, you weren't given that.
Big C.
You know big C is 90. When you're taking a quiz or test, you get a point for just listing your givens. You're always given 3, right? Okay. Well, we already solved little a, and we got 59.9. Okay. How could I find little b? What do all the angles of a triangle always equal? 180. Can't I just go 180 minus 90 minus 59.9, and won't that tell me what angle B is? Okay. And then lastly, what's probably the best way to find little a? If you know two sides of a triangle, I would do the Pythagorean theorem. Okay. If I know two sides of a triangle, I could say, well, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. I know my c, 48.3. I know little b, so I don't know a. Now, can't I solve for this, for little a? Take that and square it, take that and square it, subtract this over. Now, is it okay to get decimals for these problems? Well, absolutely. I'm telling you to round to the nearest 10. So when you take 48, and try this on your calculator, you can just do this all at one time. Go 48.3, hit the squared button. So go 48.3, hit the squared button, subtract 24.2 squared, and press enter. What are we getting when we press enter? Somebody. What'd you get? What do you mean you didn't know? Well, do it. Tell me what, take 48.3 squared minus 24.2 squared and press enter. Here's a little trick on the calculators if you don't know it.
41.8.
Is your final answer?
Yeah.
I don't want the final yet. What's the one before you square rooted it?
Before I square rooted it?
Yeah, before you square rooted it.
1,747.25.
0.15?
0.25.
So we'll just say 0.3 because we're rounding to the nearest 10. So I need to square root this. On your calculators, if you just press second square root, second answer, you don't have to type anything in. So if you just press second square root, and then right above the negative sign at the very bottom, do you see where it says ANS? If I just go second square root, second answer, it will take this answer and throw it under the square root for you and press enter. So you really don't have to do any typing everything in. You could just have the calculator do it all. Cash, what did you get as your final answer?
41.8.
41.8. Okay, so once you get kind of good at this, you can really figure out that I really don't have to do anything other than set it up. Now I just take this squared minus that squared, press enter, second square root, second answer. Press enter, done. Okay, so there's a trick to doing these, and we'll show you more on Monday. If you want to do these kind of problems as extra credit, they're just extra credit, okay, and we'll hit them a little bit more on Monday. Okay? All right, that's it. So, what did I do with my lid? Darn it. All right, let me tell you which ones are extra credit. But you're only finding one answer for each problem. So You got 25 minutes. If you get this done today and show it to me, I will give you extra credit.
Extra credit for the problems and for the worksheet.
Well, you'll get extra credit for getting it done, and then if you want to do you won't get the extra credit done today, I don't think, but if you show that to me on Monday, I'll
That
give you
would
extra.
be more extra.
Yes, more extra
Okay,
credit.
so
I'm in an extra credit mood today.
lovely.
2 extra credit opportunities in one day.
No,
I just almost feel like that's a question. It's almost been
Let me look. I'll look at my cover. Okay. Thank you. All right, 1 through 8. Here's what you're doing on 1 through 8. You are finding just the missing side, just like we did together here. Set up your trig function, cross multiply, solve for x. Okay? On 9 through 16, you're doing this. You're finding a missing angle. Missing angle. Maybe make a note right now so you don't forget. When you get to number 9, that's where you have to go sine to the -1, cosine to the -1, tangent to the -1. You're finding an angle measure. Extra credit is 17 through 20. If you are going to do that, this is what I need to see. Just list ABC, ABC, and give me every answer. Okay, those are extra credit. You can give that to me on Monday. If you get 1 through 16 done today, just show it to me. I'll give you extra credit for getting it done today. Lastly, here's all I ask for you to show me. I always are going to need to see your initial setup. I need to see how you set that up. Okay, and I get it. Some of you might be able to give me the answer from there, but I need to always see your initial setup. I went the sine of 42 is equal to x over 12. And then you can give me the answer. Okay? There we go. Try to get this done today, give you some extra credit. Gosh, what did I do with that? Maybe I'll just take it off. Throw it away. Anybody had any calculator issues? Everybody knows how to use them? Even if you have your own, keystrokes are going to be done exactly the same. Gosh darn it. Let's see if Kylie's grading.
My notes
I
from
am
last
great.
year.
Oh.
Oh, looking good at these.
What?
Oh,
Is there somebody that's going to miss 6?
There's some that have this one on 6.
That means we're redoing it.
There's a lot of like